Hello and welcome to Crimewatch. Tonight our studio is packed full of detectives from across Britain. They're waiting to hear from you. And it's thanks to you that we've had some fantastic results last month. Half of our most wanted faces are now in custody, and we've had 2 arrests from our reconstructions. Your calls make a difference. They do help solve major crimes. So can you help find the killer of this human rights campaigner?
He looked asleep, but you knew that if you tried to rouse him or whatever, you knew that there was nothing you could do. That was it.
And Rav, who do you want putting away tonight?
Well, you did such a great job last month. Let's see how you get on with tonight's bunch. Plus, do you know these 2 cowboys who broke into newsagents?
And Matthew, what have you got for us?
Well, this woman, Dina Thompson, spent 20 years manipulating men by spinning a web of lies before finally going in for the kill.
He was very depressed. Bad stomach upset. He was having problems at work. He had a very hot curry. He changed to aspirin, and then he was taking antidepressants.
Detectives finally put Dina behind bars. I've got the inside story of how police caught the Black Widow.
But first tonight, we need your help with what I have to tell you really is a very vicious robbery. It happened in the small Cumbrian village of Langwathby to a young family just about to celebrate Christmas. Please do watch closely. These thugs need to be caught tonight.
There isn't a day goes by where you don't think of it.
Oh, I found now, love.
Because it's memories as well. Just dread, just that pure dread.
This is the quiet, tranquil village of Langwathby near Penrith. Not the sort of place you'd expect to attract the attention of a highly organised, violent gang, capable of subjecting a mother and her 18-month-old daughter to a terrifying ordeal. But that's exactly what happened here last December.
Langwathby, typical sleepy Lake District village, you know. I think there's about 350 people live here.
People are nice and friendly. It's lovely for children. Very peaceful. The last 18 months has been very hectic, really. We've moved, we've done the house up, we got married last year, I had a little girl. We were looking forward to her enjoying Christmas, really.
Well, it was a Friday before Christmas, and all of a sudden, Friday, the guys work in my house and a few of my pals, we always have a drink in the next village.
Heavy present. Oh!
I'm off out now, love.
Have fun.
See you later.
Bye. Bye. Clever girl.
I bathed and started to put her to bed just after 7 o'clock. I was quite tired, so I actually thought that I'd probably just watch a little bit of telly and go to bed myself. Went to check on my daughter.
Get down! Get down! Get down!
I just can remember thinking, I've got to get the door shut, I've got to get the door shut. I just didn't know what was ahead of me. The only thing I really said for the first 5 minutes was, "Don't hurt my daughter, don't hurt my daughter. You can do anything you have to me, but don't hurt my daughter."
Please, 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 please don't hurt my...
Where's the rest of the watchers? I don't know! I'm gonna ask you one more time, or I'm gonna kick your head in!
They threatened to smash my head in.
I don't know where they are!
I just thought, I've got no chance. I can't do any more. And I saw the door open onto the landing, and I just thought that I had nothing to lose.
You stupid girl! Yeah, you stupid girl! Shut that baby!
Please don't. Oh no!
When I saw the bleach, I thought actually they were going to put it in my eyes as a lesson. I can just remember begging them not to put any near my daughter, but they didn't care.
Shut up!
In just 20 minutes, Lindsay had been tied up, punched, kicked, and had her arm broken in a sustained and vicious assault. But this wasn't a random attack. We believe the gang had been watching them for some time.
At 4:30, when we were going to pop up to the pub, and I saw a black pickup truck. So I didn't think too much of it at first, but I'd had a shower and I came out and it was still sat there. And then all of a sudden the pickup truck moved off, and it it must have been there at least 15 minutes. Didn't think too much about it, you know. There's lots of nosy people in any village.
That afternoon, a similar vehicle was seen on a number of occasions around the area, close to the house. But this might not have been their first visit to the village.
Oh, hello. Can I help you at all?
We're looking for Paul Baird. He's supposed to have a workshop here at 7.
7? It's 7:30 now, but you should be able to find him down there. He just lives down there.
All right, thanks, mate.
OK.
Right.
OK?
We are looking for a ruthless criminal gang who are not afraid to use extreme violence against defenceless victims. We know they've done it before and that they'll do it again. But next time, who knows how far they'll go.
It might have just been a 20-minute job for them, but obviously it's affected the rest of your life. I'm quite scared. I don't really like my own company anymore. I'm not as confident as I was.
You never ever think it's going to happen to you, but when it happens, it's probably it's the worst thing. The worst thing you could ever think of.
To think that there's people out there that can do these sorts of things to anyone's disgusting, but to put a child through it, I just really think that they're just vicious, horrible people.
It's a terrible thing, isn't it? I'm joined now by Detective Chief Inspector Jeff Ashton of Cumbria Police. You're here with your team. We're hoping to get a result on this tonight. This was horrific for Lindsay, and of course, as any mum will know, made intensely a lot worse by the fact that she was trying to protect Lexi.
Absolutely, Kirsty. This was a terrifying ordeal for her, carried out by a ruthless armed gang. They were clearly intent at doing what they had to do that night and were going to stop at nothing. And that was outlined by the fact they involved a young child and sustained Lindsay to a vicious assault, breaking her arm.
Very clear from what you said in the reconstruction there that they were being targeted. They could have been watched for a fair amount of time.
Absolutely, yeah. We believe they've been watched for some time. The robbers had a fairly detailed knowledge of the house and details of the family. We're very keen on a black Toyota Hilux Invincible that was seen in and around the time of the offence, containing anywhere between 3 men whenever it was seen. So if you've seen that vehicle on the day of the offence and the occupants, please get in touch.
Yeah, quite a distinctive car. We should say they got away with a fair deal of money and also very distinctive pieces of jewellery.
Yes,
3 pieces, take us through.
Yes, the first piece is a wedding band. It's engraved with the initials FB, JB and LB, very distinctive. The second piece is a diamond-encrusted ring, really, again, a very distinctive piece of jewellery that somebody, if they were offered that, would certainly recognise. And the third piece is a diamond-encrusted ladies' Oyster Rolex watch. Again, very distinctive. If somebody's been offered these pieces of jewellery, please come forward. You know, they hold the key to this.
These guys thought they were being smart with the bleach and trying to get rid of DNA.
Yes.
Actually, they did leave behind clues. Tell us about the clues they left.
Yes, they've left some trainer marks behind, and we know that those trainer marks belong to an Adidas trainer and a Nike Air Max trainer. Although they were balaclavaed up, Lindsay got a really good look at them close up. And her description of the first one is a man with a Liverpudlian accent, about 6 foot tall, slim build, dark brown eyes, aged between sort of late 30s, early 40s. The second one is an East European accent, paler skinned and described as having pale blue eyes, heavier build and taller than the first one.
Now, it took place on the 18th of December, but you think that these guys may have visited the village before?
Absolutely, yeah. We have a sighting of 3 men at the Brief Encounter cafe at Langwathby rail station. One of those had a Liverpudlian accent, one had an East European accent, and they were asking about the birds, where they lived, you know, and questions like that. Really suspicious. We're keen to speak to anybody that was either at the cafe that night that we haven't seen already. We have seen a number of people, or those people, if they're not involved, come forward, we can eliminate them.
OK, I'm going to have to wind up for now, Jeff. Thank you very much for that. Let's hope we can stop them. What a vicious bunch they are. There is a big reward, I should tell you, 20 grand for information leading to an arrest and a conviction. So please, before these guys strike again, and they will, pick up the phone now, 0500 600 600. You could call the independent charity, Crime Stoppers, anonymously. Their number, if you're interested, 0800 555 111. If you want to see the reconstruction again, it's online, bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. For now, though, here's Rav with the first of tonight's Most Wanted.
Right, we had a fantastic response to last month's Most Wanted, and as a direct result of your calls, half have now been arrested, like this bloke, Li Zhang. He was wanted for people trafficking, running brothels and money laundering. And thanks to you, Zhang was tracked down to a house in South London and is now behind bars, serving a 4-year sentence. So let's do just as well with tonight's bunch. And first up, we've got this guy, Fidar Utmanzai, and he needs to be found fast after escaping last month from a psychiatric hospital in Edmonton, North London, where he'd been detained indefinitely for manslaughter. 20-year-old Utmanzai was last spotted on CCTV on Wandsworth High Street. He speaks very little English and is extremely dangerous, so if you see him, steer clear and just call police immediately. Number 2 here is Amrullah Hafizi, and he's wanted for the violent rape of a young woman in Liverpool last summer. Hafizi says he's 19, but could be older. Don't worry though, he's easy to spot as he's missing a toe on his left foot. Next here is Raymond Fitzgerald, and he's wanted for fleecing hundreds of people for fake concert tickets, pocketing over £250,000. Fitzgerald also uses the names Hyde and Harris and has strong links to Hastings in Sussex. And my number 4 here is Robert Moore, and the list of things police want to speak to him about is pretty long and includes attempted murder, robbery and a stabbing. Moore's 24 years old and has links to Merseyside. So, do you know where Moore or any of the others are hiding tonight? Pick up the phone now if you do. 0500 600 600, or you can text us on 63399. Just type crime, space, and then your message. And it's really important to leave that space or your message won't get through. And you can also check these mugshots out online, bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. And remember, all of our Most Wanted stay on the website until they're caught.
Now, to the murder last month of human rights lawyer Abdel Salam Hassan Abdel Salam, a man who dedicated his life to helping victims of torture, but he was killed in his flat in London.
Emergency ambulance, tell me exactly what's happened.
It's the man's downstairs doors open, blood everywhere, and he's lying on the floor, and there's blood, and he's not moving.
My father was found in his flat in the hallway by a neighbour. The door was ajar. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning. He'd been stabbed a number of times, but the blow that killed him was the one to his leg, and he bled to death.
I can't see it. I can't believe it. And to die in that violent way.
He was a very special person. He was at once a very knowledgeable and intellectual man, but also very jovial. So he was very engaging in the way he would talk to me about Sudan, his work on human rights, and also what mattered to him, and that was to stand up for justice.
As a father, he was really understanding. He was really calm, he was quite sensitive, and just really loving.
Why someone can do such a thing for someone who is so peaceful, who is so dedicated to fight for the right of people who are vulnerable, who are unfairly treated.
It was a complete shock to me. I couldn't believe it, so I started calling other people just to find out more whether it was true or not. And it took a long time for this reality to sink in.
Before I saw his body, I was hanging on to the hope that it wasn't him, it was someone else. And he looked asleep, but what was really sad about it was that you knew that it didn't matter if you tried, if you had been in there with him, if you tried to rouse him or whatever, you knew that there was nothing you could do. That was it.
Sometimes I'm thinking, if I knew who did it, I would just say one thing to him, that you just killed someone who have been fighting against what you did all his life.
Well, joining me now is Detective Inspector Graham Gwynn from the Metropolitan Police. Thanks for joining us, Graham. Let's start with the facts. Tell us what you know for certain.
All we know for certain is that Abdul Salam was found at his home address in Boone Street in Lewisham on the morning of Saturday, the 13th of March this year. That was about 7:10 in the morning. He'd received a number of stab wounds to his body, to his head, to his torso, and the fatal wound was to his lower leg, where he died that day. We know that the previous evening he made phone calls to some friends, so we know between Friday the 12th and on Saturday the 13th he died.
And who is it that you're appealing to tonight, then? People that you're specifically talking to here?
We're looking at a general appeal for witnesses to come forward. We do know that Abdul Salam did have injuries to his hands. He had cuts to his hands, which indicates he did defend himself. And so there was some sort of struggle. So we want to speak to anyone who saw or heard anything or heard that struggle. We also want to speak to anyone who saw Abdul Salam or spoke to Abdul Salam on that Friday the 12th of March and asked them to come forward with information.
And what about a motive here? Because as we know, as we heard from his friends and family, this was a guy who dedicated his life to doing the right thing, to seeking justice on behalf of other people. Why would anyone want to murder him?
As you say, there is no clear, obvious motive. We are keeping an open, investigative mind with regards to why it's happened. But what we do know is there was no property taken from the premises. And also, it is clear to us that, as you say, he was a well-respected, well-liked person who spent his life helping people. So we would encourage people now to come forward and give us some information.
His former wife and his daughter there, we saw them, I mean, very as composed as they could be and incredibly dignified, but definitely entirely devastated by what's happened.
Yes, as you say, and as anyone watching that film would see, that they are completely devastated by what's happened. He has a number of friends and colleagues who are also devastated by what happened. And, of course, the people he helped throughout his life, he is no longer there to help them. So we would encourage people to please come forward and help us now.
Graham, briefly, there is a reward being offered here?
Yes, there is. The Metropolitan Police are offering a £20,000 reward for anyone with any information to come and help us to try and catch the killers who killed Abdul Salam.
Indeed. Thanks very much for joining us. If you've got any information, no matter how minor it might seem to you, it could just be crucial. Call us right now. 0500 600 600. For now, though, it's over to Rav to see who's been caught on camera.
First, remember this. It's CCTV of a young man being assaulted in London. The victim is smacked so hard he nearly falls under the wheels of this bus before being repeatedly punched and kicked as he lies helplessly on the pavement. Well, as a direct result of your calls, these two were identified as the attackers. They're James Byrne and Alex Dallinder. They both pleaded guilty to ABH, which is actual bodily harm, and have been sentenced and ordered to pay the victim compensation. So great stuff. Let's make sure we do just as well tonight. We're in Greenfield, North Wales, back in January. Hello, what's going on here? A couple of lads are broken into this newsagent's and are smashing their way into the cigarette cabinets. It's a bit late for that. We've already seen your ugly mug. They get to work clearing the shelves of thousands of pounds worth of goods. Cheers, mate. Now we can see you even better. They thought it was the perfect crime after disabling the CCTV. Only luckily for us, they didn't. Know them, shop them. This man is on the lookout for a victim in Chelsea, West London, last May. After a quick recce, he waits with an accomplice in this stolen Peugeot. They spot a young family across the road, cover up and pounce. They try to nick the ring off this woman's finger, dragging her to the ground. It's only when her husband bravely intervenes that they give up and make their escape. This was a premeditated, violent robbery in broad daylight. They didn't get their hands on anything this time. Don't give them a second chance. Who are they? Think back to last December. It's 10 in the morning at this bank in Bradford. And this bloke wants to get his hands on someone else's money. He boldly approaches the counter and holds up a suspicious-looking blue package. Then he tells staff it's a bomb. He demands cash, but luckily, a quick-thinking member of staff raises the alarm and our brazen bomber flees empty-handed. Time for us to blow his cover. Name, please. We're outside Club Afrique in Canning Town, East London, in January. A fight has kicked off and things are about to turn very nasty. This lad wants revenge and will stop at nothing. He runs off, but soon returns. He's changed his clothes, and this time, he's armed. He goes up to this man in the light-coloured jacket, pulls out a gun, and opens fire. At first, the victim doesn't realise he's been hit. Then he falls to the ground. Amazingly, he survived. Our man is carrying a weapon and isn't afraid to use it. Make the streets safer and name him tonight. If you know any of them, let us know. Call us right now on 0500 600 600, or you can text us on 63399. Just type crime, space, and then your message. And if you need a second look, go online, bbc.co.uk/crimewatch.
In just a moment, the elderly woman murdered in her North Wales home. Was it a burglary that went wrong?
Why would they want to kill my mother? She'd done nothing to anybody. Why would anybody want to kill her?
And can you identify the men in this car who smashed into a shop in Bradford and stole £100,000 worth of gold jewellery?
Now, 16 years ago, a widow in North Wales, Doreen Morris, was murdered in her home. It looked like a bungled burglary. No one has ever been caught. Her family needs to know what happened.
She'd done nothing to anybody. Why would anybody want to kill her? It was beyond belief that somebody had killed my mother. There's a gap there. She's not there.
Oh, my mother really had the most dreadful start to her life. She was so neglected as a child. The authorities took her away from her mother.
She spent her early years in her home, and when she left, she went to work in a very large house on the Anglesey as a maid, and that's where she met my dad. My dad was delivering eggs there. She got married when she was 21, and she had David and me afterwards, and then Audrey and Andrew is the youngest. My mum and dad owned a 50-acre dairy farm, which they both worked on very hard. My father died in 1990. He had emphysema, diagnosed as farmer's lung. Mum was devastated, totally devastated. Her best friend had gone, and she had looked after him for a long time. But she continued. She continued with her garden, took her dogs for a walk. She used to say she used to feel like the queen when she used to walk her corgis. She loved walking the corgis.
Four years later, a murder investigation was launched following the discovery of Doreen's burnt skeletal remains in her bungalow. To this date, nobody has been convicted of her murder. On the 24th of March 1994, Doreen had spent the day in Holyhead looking at caravans with her friend Jackie.
Come on in, I'll make you a nice cup of tea. Thank you, Rita. I think we deserve it after that. There we are, put the kettle on. Oh.
Right. What did you think of the caravan?
Well, I liked it.
Jackie left at about 5 p.m. We know from neighbours and her family that Doreen usually went to bed at about 9 p.m. This night was no different. She separated her corgis, one sleeping at the foot of her bed with her. At about midnight, Doreen's neighbour heard one of the corgis barking. When he looked outside, he saw a light was on in the bungalow. It went off about 2 minutes later.
Who are you? Who are you? Shut up! What do you want? Shut up! Get out! Get out! Get out of my house! You're not going to take my... What do you think you're doing? Get out! What do you think you're doing? You're not going to do it.
Due to the amount of blood found inside the bungalow, I believe that Doreen was subjected to a very violent assault. After killing Doreen, those responsible then set fire to her house, possibly in an attempt to destroy any forensic evidence.
Hello? Hello, can you send somebody quick? There's a fire. A fire next door. There's a woman in the house. It looks like the roof's caving in.
The offenders made off with a TV, hi-fi and jewellery before dumping the electrical items further down the lane.
I was the officer in charge of the first fire engine that morning, and when we arrived at the scene, the property was well alight and well engulfed in flames, and after a few hours of fighting the fire, I just come across basically a torso, really. What was sort of, unrecognisable, looked like skeletal remains to me.
The fire was so intense, it destroyed the bungalow. Doreen's charred remains were found lying next to the corgi Meg. A blood-stained fork was found under her body. I believe this was the murder weapon. Everything that Doreen had went up in smoke. So was this a burglary that went wrong? By cutting the phone lines, they ensured that Doreen was unable to call for help. Did she recognise the intruders?
Shut up! Get out!
Is that why they left her for dead and destroyed her bungalow and all that was in it? There are people in Holyhead who continue to keep this dark secret. Now is the time to come forward and finally bring justice and closure for Doreen and her family.
They murdered her violently, set her house on fire, and they're now getting on with their lives. And they have no rights to that, while we live with that knowledge every single day.
My parents were hard-working people. They believed in fair play, chwarae teg. That's what we want here. Fair play for my mother, justice for my mother. That's why it matters.
It matters. DCI Hansen is with me now. John, we heard there from Audrey and Helen. I mean, for the family, so horrific that their mother, who was so dear to them, ended her life in this way.
Yes, Kirsty, it's absolutely deplorable. It's bad enough being burgled, but for those responsible, why did they feel the need to kill her? And when Doreen's body was discovered amongst the remains of the bungalow, She was burnt beyond physical recognition, and she was only later identified through dental records.
Do you think that she was targeted?
Well, you will see from the aerial photograph that Doreen's bungalow was at a fairly remote location in Holyhead, and it's not the sort of place that you would stumble across in the middle of the night, so it's something that we can't rule out.
And of course, it wasn't just Mrs. Morris, it wasn't just Doreen that died in this attack.
No, one of Doreen's pet corgi dogs, Megan, was trapped inside the bungalow and couldn't get out, and she burnt to death.
Right, let's get right down to the nitty-gritty of this. You think somebody locally has got significant information here?
Yes, I do, Kirsty. I believe there are people in Holyhead who know exactly what happened on that night, and I would really urge those people to contact me and please speak to me so we can take this investigation forward.
Yeah, 16 years on, this is the time to do it, and we should tell those people that there is a significant reward in play here.
That's right. There is a £100,000 reward for information which will lead to the arrest and conviction of an offender for this crime. And I would add, Kirsty, that there is also in place established mechanisms for protecting witnesses and supporting them.
OK. For now, John, thanks very much. £100,000, that would make a huge difference to somebody's life, maybe your life. For full details, have a look on our website. Somebody knows who these people are. If you're the person, if you've got any information, I would urge you to call us now, 0500 600 600, or you could call the independent charity, Crime Stoppers. You can do that anonymously, that's fine. I'll give you their number, 0800 555 111. If you want to take another look at the reconstruction, just to be sure of the details, bbc.co.uk/crimewatch is where to go. Now here's Rav and Matthew with great results in the cases that you've helped us with.
The phones were red hot last month, and we've already had developments on 2 of the reconstructions that we featured. First, we showed the case of a horrific sexual assault of a schoolgirl by a stranger in her own home.
Okay, tell me in a minute, it's all right.
Well, following our appeal, a 36-year-old man was charged with multiple sexual offences against children in both Warwickshire and Northamptonshire. Daniel Lishman has now pleaded guilty to 5 sexual assaults and will be sentenced next month. Fantastic news.
Well, we were also joined by Dutch police who, along with the Metropolitan Police, were appealing for information on the brutal murders of 2 young women whose remains were dumped in city centre canals.
What's that? Nothing in there. It's probably money. Money. It could be millionaires. We're rich. We're rich.
Police are investigating the discovery by young children of human body parts in the Regent's Canal in North London.
11 years earlier, the dismembered body of a young woman was pulled out of the Westersinkel Canal in Rotterdam. For the first time, we have joined forces with our Dutch colleagues to investigate the killings. Together, we need your help to solve the chilling mystery as to why 2 young women's lives were so cruelly cut short.
Well, a 53-year-old man has now been charged with the 2 murders. We'll be keeping a close eye on both cases.
Next, the latest on a case that has gripped the nation for the last 8 years. The hunt for the killer of 13-year-old Millie Dowler.
Well, that was better. I know what you're like, getting ready to take pictures. We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you later. See you. Bye.
6 months after she vanished, Millie's remains were discovered in woodland in Hampshire, 30 miles away from where she was last seen. Well, earlier this month, detectives charged 41-year-old Levi Belfield with Millie's abduction and the murder and the attempted kidnap of 12-year-old Rachel Cowes in the same year. We'll keep you updated.
Finally, 4 years ago, we showed you this CCTV of a 50-year-old businessman, Charlie Butler, being fatally shot outside his own home. The gunman opens fire, shooting Charlie in the neck. He spent 8 months in a coma and then died. Well, 2 people watching that night immediately recognised the gunman as this man, Douglas Johnson. He's now been convicted of Charlie's murder along with another man, David Austin, and both have been sentenced to life. More proof that your call can make all the difference.
An armed robbery now. More than £100,000 worth of gold jewellery snatched from a family-run jewellery shop in Bradford. It was a particularly bold attack, and it's left the family feeling very vulnerable.
Right, guys, let's do this. 2 minutes, in and out.
Gang sped across the junction of Maidstone Street and LePage Street, striking the jeweller's window in broad daylight. The gunman had come for just one thing: gold.
Everything! Rings, bundles, tins, everything!
In just 2 minutes, the gang had stolen over £100,000 worth of gold and made off in the Golf GTI. It was now a race against time to flee the crime scene. Immediately after the raid, the Golf was seen turning into Midland Road. That's the last sighting of the gang. Within 20 minutes, they'd dumped the vehicle just a few miles from the jewellers. Did all 4 leave the burning car, or had some got out earlier? It was late morning. Somebody must have seen them. They were carrying bags, guns, and lots of gold.
My wife, my mum, they keep telling me to get out of this business, do something else. They're scared. Even my children are scared. And it's affected my dad a lot.
Never goes out after my mind, you know. I try to, get rid of this, you know, but it never comes out, you know. It never comes out, you know. Always frightened, always frightened.
I don't feel safe anywhere, not at home, not here. When I even come set off from home, I even look outside and see if anyone's following me.
Please help and try to let them catch. Because if you don't do that, maybe sometime happen with you, same thing, you know. This could happen to your son, to your family, to your home, anytime. They could have killed.
The whole family so badly affected by this one. I'm joined now by DI Ian Breyer. You saw him there in our reconstruction. You're now certain, Ian, you and your team, that it could be up to £150,000 worth of jewellery that's been stolen here. And you're also pretty certain that people in the wider community are going to know about this.
Yes, this raid was well planned and well executed. I believe that this gang have been watching the jeweller's shop over the days or weeks prior to the robbery taking place. Did anybody see anything suspicious during that time? We know you've got great CCTV because we used it there in the reconstruction, and in the CCTV they left some clues, these guys. They did. One of the robbers is wearing a black hooded top with a distinctive white motif on the front. Does anybody know anybody who has a jumper like that?
You're also trying to track down these bags here. There were laundry bags that were used. Quite new, these laundry bags.
Yes, we do know from the CCTV that the robbers used laundry bags identical to this one to take the jewellery away from the scene. We know that these bags can be bought locally. Did somebody buy a quantity of these bags either days before or even on the morning of the robbery itself?
Let's talk about the number plates on the getaway car. You don't have those. You need to track those down.
I do. We do know that the Black Golf GTI was stolen in a burglary a month prior to the robbery.
Right.
And I do know that shortly after it being stolen, number plates were changed. And the number plates that the car was then showing, or now showing, was MJ55YBT. I do know that when that car was left at Bullride Avenue and set on fire, the number plates were removed. I need to know where those number plates are.
That could be crucial, that one. There's a reward?
There is. The family are clearly distressed about this robbery and have put forward a £5,000 reward for anybody who was convicted of this robbery.
OK, thanks very much, Ian. If you've got any information, do phone us right now, 0500 600 600, or if you want to call the independent charity Crime Stoppers anonymously, do that. I'll give you their number. Here it is, 0800 555 111. So we're to Rav now and our second lot of most wanted faces.
Right, my number 5 here is a sex offender, Dean Barnes. He's wanted for failing to comply with the conditions of his release after doing a runner 2 years ago. He has links to Merseyside, Lancashire and London and has previously worked as a market trader. 6 here is Adrian Punau, wanted for the attempted murder of a man last September. The victim was at home with his heavily pregnant wife and teenage daughter when they were shot at. They were lucky to escape. Punau has connections to Sheffield, Nottingham and Manchester. But he is violent, so keep away if you see him and just call police immediately. Next here is Stephen Devalda, wanted for a violent robbery in Colne, Lancashire. He was charged but failed to attend court and hasn't been seen since. Devalda's originally from Manchester and also has links to Spain. And last but by no means least is Christopher O'Brien. He's been on the run for 2 years after being arrested for importing illegal weapons into the UK. O'Brien has links to Harrow in North London, Liverpool and Thailand. So come on, where are they tonight? Don't wait. Call us here in the studio, 0500 600 600, or you can text us on 63399. Just type crime space and then your message. Don't forget to leave that space or your message won't get through. And we have more wanted faces on our website where you can also sign up for regular updates. And that's bbc.co.uk/crimewatch.
Thanks, Rav. Now, here's a tale of one woman, Dina Thompson, who spent 20 years targeting men and fabricating the most fantastic lies to get her hands on their cash. And when that wasn't enough, she turned to murder. I should tell you, it's a shocking story. Matthew takes it up, how the police caught the Black Widow.
Dina Thompson is every man's worst nightmare. For almost 20 years, she used sex and deception to extort thousands of pounds from a string of lovers. But her most powerful weapon was murder.
I once called Dina the Black Widow because a Black Widow spider will mate with its male counterpart and then kill them.
This is the story of Fatal Attraction, how one woman spun a web of lies to manipulate men before going in for the kill. Dina and Richard had been married for 8 months. He was in love and trusted her with his life.
It was New Year's Day. Started the morning off by having a bath.
Got a surprise for you.
Dina said, "Do you mind if we play a little game?"
Get out of the bath. You're feeling adventurous, darling.
She tied my hands behind my back. She put some tape around my ankles. and then she placed a towel over my face.
Are you ready for your surprise now?
I could hear rustling sounds coming from the bedroom. Something in me said, there's something maybe not quite right here. It was at that point I freed my hands. Had I not freed my hands at that moment, I would not be talking to you now. The next thing I knew was the most searing pain I can ever remember. I can still hear the sound of that bat ringing. All I can see is red. The will to survive really does kick in. Forget this was the person I was married to. I was going to die as far as I was concerned, unless I did something very drastic. It was at that point I put my fingers in her eyes as her most vulnerable point.
Let it go! Stop!
Something then gave, and she broke down, and she said, it's all been a lie.
Richard had met Dina 15 months earlier through a Lonely Hearts column. He was instantly smitten, but to her, it was just a game. With her prey hooked, she would use a series of well-practiced ploys to reel him in.
Cheers.
Cheers. First, there was flattery.
Dina would show incredible interest in everything you did.
I love deep sea fishing.
It was just a breath of fresh air from previous relationships. We got married on a beach in Florida.
Then came lies about her wealth.
Dina told me that approximately 6 months previously, she'd won the lottery.
£300,000? It's in a high-interest account.
Next, Dina invented a serious illness.
I've got breast cancer. I think it might be terminal.
I quit my job and cashed in a £30,000 pension, all to enable a better quality of life for Dina.
Finally came the fantasy of a new life abroad.
Why don't we move to Florida? You could be a fishing captain.
Her skill was homing in on people's hopes and ambitions. And those hopes and ambitions can make you a bit blind to what's actually happening.
Immediately after the attack, Dina packed her bags and left. That night, Richard, too stunned to tell anyone, lay silent. But the next day would reveal the extraordinary extent of her lies when an estate agent knocked at the door.
Hi, can I speak with Mrs. Thompson?
Why, what do you want?
Oh, I'm here to sell the house. I'm an estate agent. I was told you're in Florida.
I'm sorry, I think you made a mistake.
I suddenly realised what Dina's plans were. To kill me, sell the house. No one was going to be looking for me because everyone thought I was going to be in Florida. And then she could live happily ever after on the proceeds of the sale of the house. It was at that point I decided to call the police.
For some local officers, there were unnerving similarities between the attack on Richard and a previous case they'd come across.
I thought this can't be happening again. It really rang alarm bells in my head and everybody else's that was involved in it.
6 years earlier, a man by the name of Julian Webb was found dead at his home in suspicious circumstances. It was the day after his 31st birthday. Julian's wife said he'd been depressed for days before taking a lethal dose of antidepressants. But the grieving widow was Dina Thompson.
Julian was an advertising rep for a local newspaper. He was, by all accounts, from so many different people, a lovely, lovely person. Mrs. Webb never accepted her son died in the way that Dina said, and she quickly convinced me that I owed it to her and to her son to re-examine how Julian died.
There is absolutely no way that he would have taken his own life. He was such an even sort of character, and he loved life.
What had just happened to Richard made Julian's suicide look even more suspicious. At the time of his death, the coroner recorded an open verdict, but it was possible the truth was far more sinister.
I suddenly thought that I was dealing with a serial killer. I decided to deal with the attempted murder of Richard Thompson, get that before a court, and then reinvestigate the death of Julian Webb.
Police looked back at all the men Dina had relationships with.
Need to know if you know this woman.
Yeah, I do.
In that case, we need to ask you a few questions about her.
They were staggered by what they discovered.
Once she had these men hooked, she would persuade them to let her open their mail. She would start dealing with their bank accounts, and she stole credit cards and used them without them knowing.
Oh yes, I'd like to book a flight to Miami. I'm paying by credit card.
When Dina was arrested, she admitted conning money from men, but denied trying to kill Richard, claiming it was self-defense. The jury believed her story, and she was acquitted. The Black Widow had got away with it. For now.
I was devastated. I was made to feel like I was the criminal.
Determined to reinvestigate Julian's suspicious death, police searched for clues and even exhumed his body. Dina had always claimed that Julian overdosed on her own antidepressants, dithiopin. Tests confirmed it was the drug that killed him, but this created a new mystery.
Dithiopin tastes very bitter, so you have to mask it, otherwise the person will know they're eating it. And we didn't know how that happened.
Dina was questioned again, but gave away nothing. With little to go on, police knew they'd have to rely on circumstantial evidence.
We went through her old statements with a fine-tooth comb to find the discrepancies and show how she had lied and lied and lied.
Then, a crucial lead emerged, an American friend of Julian's living in Florida. When police tracked him down, his testimony was the turning point that transformed the entire investigation.
Well, she called me and told me he went fishing that day. It was his birthday. He was out in the hot sun.
Yes, we think it was just too much of his heart.
Drinking and took some seasickness pills, took some aspirin for his headache. Then, when she got home, she fixed him a curry.
Yes, and he had a heart attack and died.
She said a hot curry.
I suddenly realised I had the missing piece to my jigsaw. She'd hidden the taste of the dithiopin in a curry.
Police now knew how Dina had killed Julian, but not why. When they re-interviewed his neighbour, they discovered the couple had been arguing over money the day he died.
Yes, it's just gone.
Dina had spent every last penny.
As soon as Julian found out that all of their money had gone, he had to die.
For Dina, it was all about the cash. By mixing a toxic cocktail of drugs into a hot vindaloo curry, his death would look like suicide, and she'd inherit everything.
It would have to be a significant dose of dithiopin to incapacitate someone and put them into a near-coma state.
You okay?
I feel really strange.
Oh dear.
I have nightmares over how Julian's last few days went. Because I have visions of him being incapacitated in bed, looking at the woman he loves, continuing to overdose him until his body gave up. That's an awful, awful thought. Within 24 hours of Julian's unexpected death, Dina was at his employers asking about how to reclaim a pension and was on the phone to the mortgage company trying to redeem the mortgage.
Dina subsequently invented a litany of contradictory explanations for Julian's death.
He was very depressed. Bad stomach upset. He was having problems at work. She could have stopped
And that was
him.
massively damning for me because she gave something like 9 different versions.
He had a very hot curry. He changed to aspirin. I think he was taking antidepressants.
But the police had uncovered enough. It was time to charge her with Julian's murder. Dina denied killing Julian, but this time the jury refused to believe her. The Black Widow's tangle web of deceit had finally unravelled. The game was up. She was found guilty and sentenced to life.
Quite frankly, this woman is every man's nightmare. For the last decade, she has targeted men financially, sexually and physically. And I, for one, am very glad that she's behind bars.
Talk about truth being stranger than fiction. What a terrifying woman.
Yeah, the lead detective here said she was the most dangerous woman he's ever met. I mean, the list of victims, the list of fraud convictions, I mean, it would take me too long to go through it all. It goes on for pages, but the formula she used was always the same. Tapping into their dreams, lies about cancer, that was one of her favourite ones. But all the while, getting hold of credit cards, savings, pensions, draining bank accounts, it was all totally premeditated.
And by all accounts, the two husbands that we saw in your film there, you know, they were smart men, and yet she managed somehow to convince them.
It was extraordinary because of the lies. They were so preposterous. I mean, when she wanted to get rid of her first husband, they owned a soft toy company. She told him that Disney wanted to buy the rights of one of their characters for £50 million. She also said that the mafia were trying to muscle in on the deal, get the money, and were threatening their son. So she told her husband to change his name, go on the run till the deal was done. Astonishingly, he actually does it. He ends up living on the streets. It takes him 4 years to find out the truth. As soon as he's out of the picture, Dina marries Julian, even though she's already married, and then gets her claws into him. I mean, frankly, incredible.
Do the police think there are any more victims?
They think it's a distinct possibility. They're trawling through all of her past relationships, looking for someone who's basically vanished. There is one previous boyfriend who's classified as missing, and they're seeing if he's actually come to any harm.
What about sentencing? What does she get?
Well, life with a minimum of 13 years. She did appeal, and the sentence was actually increased from 13 to 16 years.
An astonishing tale. Matthew, thanks very much. Now here's Rav with a quick roundup of what's been happening on the phones.
Yeah, some great stuff already coming in from Penrith, the aggravated burglary of Mrs Bird and baby Lexi. Lots of calls coming in detailing some of the property stolen and also the possibility of linking it with other cases, so very encouraging. Quickly, the human rights lawyer, Mr Abdel Salam. A few calls coming in already with some, hopefully, important information there. And then to Holyhead, the cold case murder of Mrs Doreen Morris. Number of calls come in and a number of names suggested. And remember, this is a case that goes back to 1994. Good effort.
That's all for now. Details of all of tonight's cases, of course, you can get online, bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. You can log on right now for live updates on what's happening right here on the phones. Here's hoping it's been busy. The lines are open until midnight tonight and from 7:30 in the morning. But don't go away, because we're going to be back at 11 o'clock with a full update on all of tonight's cases. If you can help, but you haven't called yet, please do it now. It could all be down to you. I'll see you at 11. Until then, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.